2 bay leaves.
This is one of my favorite soups of all time, Pork Pozole Verde. You'll love it. Let's continue.
Now, I personally like to use a pressure cooker to make this, but it's not necessary. I just do it because it saves time. Just 45 minutes of cooking, and it'll be good to go. Now, if you don't have a pressure cooker, just grab a pot, fill it with water, and simmer your meat on the stove for about 3 hours or so. And this is actually the more traditional way to make pozole. Now, while the meat is cooking, let's go ahead and roast our veggies here. This is a tomatillo. It's in the tomato family. It's not quite as sweet. It's a little more acidic, in fact. And it's covered in this papery husk, which you just have to peel off. So again, not quite as sweet as a tomato, a little more acidic. It has a hint of citrus as well. So I'm just gonna peel all these, and you can purchase these already peeled as well. They're a little sticky to the touch, so just give them a quick rinse. So I've got about a dozen tomatillos here. Then I have 3 Poblano Peppers. And all I'm gonna do is just slice these up and remove the seeds. These aren't hot, so you don't have to worry about being thorough. I'm just gonna cut them up into little pieces, and onto the roasting tray they go. Now, typically you'd put in a couple of hot peppers, but if I do that, my kids aren't going to eat it, so I'm just gonna stick with 1 jalapeno, seeds removed. But feel free to add a couple of jalapeno, a couple of serrano, whatever you're in the mood for. Then I'm also gonna add 2 onions. Just a quick chop on these. And usually what I do with this is pretend this is a clove of garlic. I just cut the top off right here, and I place it face down on the platter here and just let that roast like that. But since all my bulbs are broken into these cloves already, I'm just gonna place these in here just like that. It's still covered so they don't burn inside the oven. Okay, just a touch of oil here. Make sure to get those garlic cloves. Mix that up a bit. And I'm roasting this at 425 for about 30 minutes or so. All right, here we go. Everything's nice and roasted now. Got a little bit of char here and there. That's what we're looking for. Now, all of this needs to be blended up. And I don't have a blender, so I'm just gonna be using a food processor for this. I'm gonna start off with 1 bunch of cilantro, tops and stems. Then I'm gonna take the garlic out, just so I can peel it. Then all of this goes into the food processor. Of course, you can do this in stages if it doesn't all fit. Now, typically here, I would just take my whole bulb of garlic and squeeze it out. But since we had to do individual this time, that's okay, it just takes a little bit longer to get that delicious roasted garlic in there. Okay, then salt, oregano, cumin, and the juice of about half a lime. And I'll of course be sure to put all these ingredients in the description below for you. Now this mixture is like a flavor explosion, and this is going directly into our soup. Now if you have a blender, you could get this to puree a little bit more, but this is good enough for me. All right, here's the meat. I'm gonna grab a pot and put it all together now. I'll start off with some hominy, which is just cooked corn with a chewy texture. Okay, that goes in first. Okay, then in goes the green salsa. This is just packed full of flavor. All right, next is the pork. And let me just show you how unbelievably tender this is. It just falls apart very easily. But personally, I don't want to pull this apart. So I'm just gonna place these big chunks into the soup because they will break up naturally as I stir this. And I just personally just don't like it when it's all broken up into tiny pieces. But to each their own. If you want to pre-shred, have at it. And in total, this is about 3 pounds of pork. Now I cooked about 4 pounds worth, so I'll save the rest of this for some tacos one day. I am gonna put a little bit of that broth in though. In fact, if you did cook your pork in a pot with just in the water, you would have plenty of broth here. But I personally like to use homemade stock, because I always have it in my house, I'm always making it. So in goes 3 cups of chicken broth. There's just a lot more flavor in there, I think, personally. But there's nothing wrong with using the broth that you cook the pork in. Okay, over to the stove now. And we're just gonna let all these flavors come together. See, eventually this meat will break up as you stir it. And that's kind of how I like it, a little bit chunky. But eventually, like I said, it does break up. Now you will need to taste this to see if it needs one of 2 things: salt or lime. The acidity is good on mine, so no more lime there, but I'll serve it on the side. But it did need another 2 pinches of salt here. You can adjust that to your own taste. I'm just gonna let this cook over a low simmer for another 20 to 30 minutes. Here's all the leftover pork. And by the way, anytime that you have some leftover flavorful broth like this, save it. So you can use it someday to cook rice, beans, or blanch your vegetables. Anything like that will add a ton of flavor to your cooking. And now for arguably the most important part, the toppings. I like to use these little corn tortillas, slice them up into these little strips, then pan over the heat with a little bit of oil, place in the tortilla strips, and just toss those around until they're a little bit crispy. This should just take around 3 to 5 minutes. Once they're a little crispy, remove them from the heat and place them into a bowl with a paper towel, and immediately salt while they're still hot. And now it's time to serve. We'll get a nice ladle of that pozole. This is pozole verde because it's green. And once you have your soup, you gotta put the toppings on. My kids say this is what makes pozole exciting. Of course, we have the crispy tortillas, avocado, fresh cilantro, lime juice, radishes, and anything else that you can get creative to put on there. So we'll doctor our soup up a bit here. We'll place some radishes, some avocado, of course those crispies for a little crunch, and some fresh cilantro. And there is one of my favorite soups, pork pozole verde. We'll see what the kids think about this. First, I'll give this a little taste. Oh yeah, it's always so delicious, so filling and comforting, perfect for a winter day for sure. So until next time, go cook something warm and delicious for someone you love. All right, here we go, guys. Try that pozole.
Really good. I love the meat, the hominy. Everything by itself would be but all of it mixed up, it's great, including the radishes. I like how it's green. This is really good.
All right, thanks guys.
All right.